going on, Jerome's? Justin friggin' Jefferson has already established himself as the wide receiver one in the league and a potential generational talent. And the Vikings, it would behoove them to secure him long term, especially. He hasn't even scratched the surface of his prime yet. Like, he's not even 25. And through the first 4 seasons of his career, even with missing 7 games, well, really 7.5, with a hamstring as well as getting knocked out because of the hospital ball against the Raiders, he is already breaking records and really resetting what the thinking of what a wide receiver can do coming into this league. And he's only going to get better and better and better. And he is the face of the franchise. He is the focal point. He is the only wide receiver who's been an MVP finalist since Jerry Rice, allegedly. And JJ deserves to get paid. Absolutely does, man. And he is headed into his 5th-year option this season, $19.743 million fully guaranteed. And the Vikings, they do have control over JJ. They can franchise tag him next year. They can franchise tag him for 2026. But ideally, a long-term deal will get done, and we'll keep JJ in purple long-term. And we say this about contract negotiations, especially in sports, and it's true. Where if things are quiet, things are going relatively well. Now, have things gone slow? Yes. And with JJ being eligible for an extension after his 3rd season, last off season, I mean, it was a little touch and go. I mean, JJ skipping voluntary OTA, showing up for mandatory minicamp, basically saying it's not that big of a deal. JJ. His agents and Kwesi and the Vikings trying to work something out, but they, as the season started, they put those talks on hold. It's like, hey, we'll revisit after Justin Jefferson has another phenomenal season and all that stuff. But of course, JJ with that hamstring injury did put himself behind the 8 ball a little bit. But the fact that he still got a 1,000-yard season, it's pretty damn good, especially with Nick Mullins, chucking him the ball towards the back end of the season and not Kirk Cousins. But either way, it didn't get done last off season, and now we're basically back to where we're at. Also with 1 year off of his contract now, into that 5th-year option, and him being closer to free agency. And yeah, I mean, JJ deserves to be the highest paid receiver in the game. That's without question. Also, I mean, Tyreek Hill. If you dive into Tyreek Hill's contract, it's basically a 3-year, $72 million deal, and they basically had $45 million fluffed up, which he was never going to see. Nothing guaranteed in the 4th year of his extension, just to gussy up the numbers a little bit, make the agent feel good. It's ridiculous, man. But JJ still waiting on that contract, and I think that he will get it. But ESPN, Kevin Seifert, who is not Carl Gershmidt, put together a piece this week about why Justin Jefferson has yet to get his big payday, and there's some interesting parts in there. So this is from the article. Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Justin, forgot the friggin', Jefferson has willingly answer questions for months about his ongoing contract negotiations. His genial replies have avoided alarming headlines, but a clear theme has emerged. From Jefferson's perspective, there's no precedent to the deal he will eventually sign with the Vikings or another team because there's no precedent to what he's produced during the first 4 NFL seasons. And that is fair. Where, I mean, JJ smashing records all over the place, and I think that he does see himself as more than just a wide receiver. And I think you look at some of the contracts around the league, Nick Bosa notably, where they're kind of breaking the mold in terms of non-quarterback compensation, and it's starting to get closer. And it's so stupid. Like, if Daniel Jones is worth $40 million per year, but you're saying, like, Justin Jefferson, we're not paying him a penny over 30. It's really stupid. It's really stupid logic. And then understanding that mindset helps inform why, more than a year after Jefferson became eligible for an extension, there has been no new contract. The Vikings are not playing hardball, which is good news. And Jefferson has no reluctance about playing in Minnesota, also fantastic news. Multiple sources said during the 2023 season, JJ is also publicly endorsed the return of free agent quarterback Kirk Cousins, but the unsettled nature of the position has not been a central focus of the talks either. So some really important information there. So as we said, negotiations quiet, things are going well. And things have been relatively quiet, even though, JJ, especially during the Super Bowl, did the media rounds, and he's okay talking about things, but it hasn't been contentious. Like, there hasn't been passive-aggressive shots in media or on social media. It's like, oh, they're being unreasonable. Or it hasn't leaked from the team side through the insiders, like, Justin Jefferson is looking for $48 million guaranteed per year. That hasn't happened. So that does make you feel good, about a deal potentially getting done. And Seifert continued, blah, 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 blah. As ESPN noted last March, a typical negotiation with superstar Justin Jefferson's caliber would start with a baseline of making him the NFL's highest paid player at his position, but Jefferson implied in September that he wasn't necessarily viewing the process that way. When asked if he would seek advice from players who have been in similar situations, he said, quote, "I've done something that no one has ever done in the history of the game, so my situation is a little bit different than everyone else's," end quote. And, I mean, to a degree that is fair, yes, but also, will the Vikings and the league see it that way? I don't know. And basically what comes down to just trying to read between the lines and read the tea leaves here. There's a couple reasons why things may be held up. And we bandied about the idea that JJ wants to know who's going to be throwing him the ball. I think that, despite what the Seifert article says, I think that is part of it. How could it not be, right? With being a receiver, how could not knowing who your quarterback is going to be, how could that not affect you, right? But the reasons why the deal hasn't got done. So the Vikings have time. Last offseason, yes, he was eligible, but the Vikings had him for basically de facto 3 seasons. The final year of his rookie deal, 5th-year option, and at least 1 franchise tag. So it's a deadline-driven league. And yeah, the Vikings, if they would have gotten a deal done last offseason, maybe it would have been a little bit cheaper since it got done early. But also, I mean, JJ's talking about there's no precedent. What does that even mean? Number 2, waiting on CD and Jamar, who are both eligible for extensions this year. So it's a game of leapfrog. I mean, if CD gets $31 million per year, Jamar gets $32 million per year, and JJ gets more than that. That's what happens, man. Number 3, does JJ want something unprecedented? So it doesn't come down to something as simple as like, well, we want more per season than Tyreek, and also we want more guaranteed than what Cooper Kupp got. The $75 million guaranteed, and it goes from there. And that's the number that you have to take into account because, like the Tyreek Hill deal. So you look at Cooper Kupp's contract. All right, so $75 million guaranteed, but a total value of $80.1. Now, yes, that's 1 year less, but that's no different than, and it's actually more valuable since there's more guaranteed money than Tyreek Hill's 72.2, even though in the papers, people still read papers, but the headlines will still read $120 million deal. Again, it's more for the agent to feel good about themselves, so sort of ridiculous. Now, getting back to JJ, does he want something unprecedented? Like, instead of a traditional like a 5-year extension where the guaranteed money is in the first, sometimes second years, does JJ want, say, like a 3-year fully guaranteed deal? Maybe even at a lower average value per season. Like maybe JJ just straight up wants $28 million guaranteed per season for the next 3 years, which it would be unprecedented in terms of guaranteed money, in terms of time frame. But maybe that's what matters most. Maybe JJ and Kurt go. Maybe then they've been tossing ideas around where it's not so much the total money that's reported, where a lot of it is toilet paper anyway, but it's about the guaranteed. It's about the commitment. It's about the structure, like Kirk is bandied about quite a bit. Also, could he want something unprecedented, as in, could he want a contract that is tied to a percentage of the salary cap? Now, eventually we're going to get a contract like that. But it will take one team and one owner to cross that Rubicon, because then, I mean, a lot of contracts could be tied to percentage of the cap as opposed to shooting from the hip, whatever number you think is going to be relevant in years down the road, right? But could JJ work out a deal where it's like, hey, my contract is going to be 10% of the cap for the next 3 years? Where, I mean, this year with the cap at 255.4, actually that's a little bit low. Say 12%. So we're talking about like 28, 29, 30 million bucks per year. And then if the cap rises, so does the salary automatically. Now, you can see why teams would not want to do that. Also, what happens if there's a weird global event and then the cap goes down and then JJ just makes less? That'd be kind of funny, but very unlikely with the new TV money coming in. And number 4, could the Vikings have been waiting on the cap to rise? Could JJ and his agent be waiting on the cap to rise? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we've got some more money to play around. Let's make sure that this is equitable, and that also could be a reason why JJ and his agent didn't decide to do a contract last offseason, even though reportedly there was one on the table, because they foresaw what was going to happen with the new streaming with Amazon as well as Peacock, all that cash coming in. It's possible. And number 5, quarterback. I still think that quarterback is a major part of that, but I do think that something will get done with Jefferson. It may come down to, quote unquote, the final hour. Maybe it's something that doesn't get done all off season and we have to wait until training camp, and then eventually JJ does put his name on that dotted line. But I think it would be very stupid for the Vikings to trade Justin Jefferson. I think they'll work something out. I think that financially it's not so much about the money, because the Vikings know that they have to pay, and I think that they will pay. And Jefferson, he talks about doing unprecedented things, but I think at the end of the day, it's about just getting the best deal possible, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think the Vikings will take care of him, and I think that we'll get this thing done. Your thoughts are thoughts. Why hasn't a Justin Jefferson deal gotten done yet? Question mark. Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. You know what to do. Skol, production value.